welcome back to Foster English. Today we're going to be talking about nouns. The shape that we are going to use to represent nouns in sentences is the square. If it's a rectangle or a rhombus, that's fine. But the point is we want four sides, four corners to represent the four basic kinds of nouns in English. And they are people, places, things, both living and non-living, and ideas. Without nouns, we wouldn't be able to express or understand anything. Because in order to express an idea, you need to be talking about someone, something, living or non-living, somewhere, or some other thought process or idea that represents your thinking that you want to get out into the world. And on some level, all words are nouns in that sense. Don't try and write that as an answer in an English exam or argue it with your English teacher because they probably won't appreciate it. But really, all words, either spoken or written, are representations of ideas. Some are clearer than others, and we're not really talking about words on that level as things that we look at or things that we hear. We're talking about words in the context of grammar, which means in the context of sentences. And in a sentence, we're most concerned with a word's usage. How is the word being used? And when the word is being used to represent a person, place, thing, living or non-living, or idea, then the word is being used as a noun. Really, this comes down to vocabulary. Understanding that there are words we use to represent people, and that could include personal pronouns, whether it's first person, second person, third person. We'll get into all of that in a later video. It could include proper names. For example, my name is Foster. If you want to introduce yourself, you can do it in the comments. We can also identify people in terms of their relationship to us. Words like brother, sister, mother, father, friend. These are people words, but they exist within some kind of context, some kind of relationship. There are also profession words we might use. Doctor, nurse, architect, lawyer, teacher, pupil, and each individual word is going to mean something a little bit different to whoever is writing, reading, speaking, or listening, and that's why those words and those definitions of words are important to make sure that we agree on what it is we're talking about, or in this case, who it is we're talking about. Also, we have places, and sometimes places can also be things, right? I can talk about a building, and the building can be a location, like a hospital, but the hospital can also be a thing that I can touch. Probably not pick up and carry unless it's a tiny little hospital that I'm building with Lego or something, but you can see how with nouns, with these things or these people or these places, and sometimes ideas, but we'll get to that in a second, but with at least these first three, people, places, things, they are the material existence of life. It's what we can see, smell, taste, touch, or hear that give us these impressions to be able to identify the world in which we live in and the things or people or places that we have relationships or interactions with. So those are the words we use to represent the material world, right? The words of nouns that include people, places, and things. Ideas are a little different. The idea nouns can be much harder to sort of find within sentences because they are the nouns, or they're the things we talk about that can't necessarily be sensed using the 5 material senses of sight, smell, taste, sound, and touch. Hopefully I'm getting those right. And that's where the 6th one comes in. And if you saw my video on senses, then you'd know that I believe there's something that ties these five together, and that is the sense of reason. And it's reason we use to handle, to sort of manipulate and get a grasp of these idea nouns. Because we can have ideas of things, being the ideas themselves, that, well, we can't take out of our pocket and give to someone, or we can't take someone to the place, or we can't introduce them as a person. And often these idea nouns are the nouns that are most sort of confusing to students, and they're the most difficult to find as the subject of a sentence. If someone is asked, well, what are you trying to talk about? What are you trying to say? What are you expressing? It's getting these idea nouns properly defined that can be the most difficult. There are some hints that you can see sometimes in the language itself to help you identify idea nouns. For example, tion and sion are often a sign that you may be dealing with an idea noun. Just as a hint. Ing words, when they're not used as verbs or adjectives, may be used as nouns. We call those gerunds. We'll be doing a whole video on present participles and gerunds later on. But again, those are the idea, talking about the idea of an action, usually. Maybe a state of being, but that's how we take the idea of the verb and talk about that as a concept to then have some sort of verb as well. The point is, nouns are very important words in English because without them, you could not express any complete thought. You are always starting with a person, place, thing, or idea to talk about, and that is the subject of your thought, the subject of the sentence. The other way in which nouns might appear in sentences is as the object, and we can have direct and indirect objects. We'll be doing an object video later on, but know that the syntax of a sentence, the order of words, or the way in which words are ordered, that's what syntax is, in English will generally have subject, verb, and maybe an object. The object depends on often the verb or what it is you want to say about the subject. So those are nouns. And just to review, we use the square to represent nouns because there are four kinds of nouns, and the square has the four sides, the four corners, lots of fours to think about and remind you that there are people, places, things, and ideas that we tend to talk about. Subjects, nouns, they are important parts of speech. The most important part of speech, because without them, we couldn't express anything. We'll talk more about nouns, objects, subjects, all of the things in future videos, but there it is. Like, comment, subscribe, ask questions, introduce yourselves. All are welcome. Thank you.